afternoon. What's afternoon here in UK, of course. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. Hope you're well, hope you're safe and well. Hope your bass playing's going great. Welcome to Brooks's Bass Corner, live chat 98. 2 more till we hit the big 100. Good to see you. Welcome. Come on in if you want to talk bass, bass guitars, bass amps, bass effects, bass accessories. I'm sure you'll all be very happy that I've actually remembered to press the confirm to go live button this week. So hopefully you're all hearing me. I hope. Let me just check the stream health, because we have had a couple of situations in the past few weeks where I'd forgot to press the button twice. You don't press it once, you press it twice. And it was a bit of a false start 2 weeks on the trot. So hopefully it's a little more with it this week. Let's just check. I want to check that, and I need to check that that is running too. Just bear me a second. We have to do these things. Yes, it's working. Hurrah. Fabulous. That's what I like to see. So, live chat 98. Welcome. Come on in. You're amongst friends. So if you want to talk bass, bass guitars, bass effects, bass accessories, great bass players, bands with great bass players in, this is the place to do it. It's the only regular bass-centered live chat on YouTube, as far as I can see. Johnny C, good to see you. Welcome. So for those in the US, I know it's early. It's like 7 a.m. on the East Coast, 4 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm sorry. So I'm assuming a lot of the West Coasters who regularly come in here on the live chat, you're going to be checking in after the event, because we're only going to be doing about 2 hours today. I've got to head off for an Uncle Funk show down heading towards Brighton, but it's not quite as far as Brighton, and it's kind of Sussex going into Kent sort of area. So I've got a little bit of a drive ahead of me, and I'll be doing one of the gig vlogs, of course. Got to film that. If anyone doesn't know really what I'm talking about, Andy Travis, welcome. Good to see you, my man. I started a gig vlog 2 weeks ago. I did kind of a bit of vlogging on the bass string experiment for those that watched that a couple of years ago. And last year I had loads of great gigs, but I couldn't do any of the impromptu live chats on them because the mobile reception was so bad. And I thought, well, why don't you just record it and edit it into a video and put it up later? Okay. And every time I was on a gig, it didn't happen. So this year, 2025, we're going to try and do Brooks's gig vlog. So as often as I'm out on gigs, I'll try and do a video, show you what goes on, shows you what we're doing, all the different bands I'm playing with, all the different sorts of gigs I do. I don't do one sort of thing. I do lots of different stuff. So give you all an idea what the working life of a working bass player is like. It's not all glamour, I can promise you that. It certainly isn't all glamour. But I know I did a gig 2 weeks ago, and I didn't film it or vlog it because it was a gig in London, really cramped, small, tight venue. Getting there isn't the easiest because it's on the tube, and then I don't want to be holding my phone up in the centre of London doing a vlog. People will steal your phone at the merest hint if you got it in front of your face. So, and walking down dark roads and alleyway, and nah. So on the gigs that it's suitable for, I'll do that. So there'll be a gig vlog for today. And yeah. So we're a week on from last week. Thank you to everyone who tuned in last Saturday. It was a bit of a special one. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll let you check it out on the video list on the YouTube channel. Our friend Nick Smith sadly passed away, and we did a bit of a remembrance show for him last week. I felt the day before that there were just a lot of us who are bass players, people who knew Nick, musicians generally that he'd interacted with. Obviously, we're at very low ebb, and it was really difficult on the day that it was announced that he'd passed away, trying to communicate with everyone that wanted to communicate. And I thought, well, if we can at least create one central spot, even if it's only for a few hours, for people to come on, share their memories of him. I posted up some videos, and yeah, Yeah, it's been an odd week. This week, the week after, has been odd. He's constantly in my mind, and I'm thinking about him, and it just throws you. I had to readjust my compass on Monday and Tuesday. I was like, felt a bit like I was freewheeling. Didn't really have a grasp of things and life and what I was doing, and realised very quickly I've got to get some videos up for you fabulous people. So regular attendees to the channel who watch and have notifications turned on when I post up new content. Hope you like the new content. So we've got the gig vlog up and running. Obviously, today's gig I'll film and try and get that up probably Monday, early on Monday. And past few days, new gig review, look at me, bass review. I've got a million things going on in the brain today. I've still got to pack my car before I leave here. Bass review, not gig review, bass review. So the Anaconda Constrictor Elite that I looked at, December 23. That shows you how chaotic last year was with everything that was going on in my family. Yeah, I reviewed that in December 23. The demo went up last spring, and the shorts relating to it went up last spring. But I didn't get around to the review. So I've kind of made it my purpose through January, start of February, clear the decks, get all the stuff that's long overdue, edited, finished, out there. So that review's gone up. There's been a bunch of shorts as well. People who like YouTube shorts, a couple of short remixes from the review video, which seem to have done quite well overnight, which I'm pleased about. And this week, so gig vlog Monday, going to try and get the other two Anaconda reviews done, finished, out this week. They're basically 3/4 finished, edited. I've just got to tweak them, do the transitions, bit of text overlay, and we're good to go. So hopefully both of those will be up. Then I can get the Flatley pedals done, finished, put to bed. I've got the Neil Murray snakebite basses from the Bass Centre here in London. And then we're good to go. That's the backlog done. And then it's literally, I can go into my library of stuff that's been sitting there. I can start going into what I think is relevant, what isn't. And we can start doing new content. So the Fretless Odyssey will be out there. The podcast will be up and running. And I've got a load of stuff here for demo and review. So busy times. So even though February, I've got some gigs. I've got today, got bunch of them next week, one or two the week after, and then it kind of goes a bit quiet until we get into March. Plenty of time to get new content up, so keep watching the channel. If you're tuning in partially, keep coming back. There is loads coming your way. It's just these things take time because I'm a one-man band. It takes time to get the ideas generated, the brainstorming, the scripting, the filming, then the editing, doing the audio, doing the graphics. You've got to do the social media. So anyway, we're getting there. So, yeah, as I said, we're only going to go for a couple of hours today. So it's a bit of a short one compared to usual. I need to be out of the door by 2:30 at the very latest. Sound checks at 5. Got a bit of a drive around the M25, and I was going to go down the M23, A23, but it now looks like my sat-nav's taking me a different route. So that's the way it's going to be. Anyone who's got any pics of gear that they, I say pics, I don't mean photos, I mean things that you're really interested in, that were unveiled at NAMM last week, which was last weekend and the few days preceding it. If anything's caught your eye, let me know. Tell me the new gear that's got you salivating. It was a weird kind of NAMM for someone on this side of the pond looking at what was coming out, because it's felt like, because there's so many of us now who are YouTubers and social media people and influencers and this and that, it seemed like there was a lot of content and output from them, but not a huge amount from the manufacturers and distributors. Maybe that was just my take on it. Maybe I had other things going on that was diverting my attention, but it felt like there wasn't this massive new gear. It felt like there was modified versions of what was already out there. And some of the big companies and the big builders, big bass builders, who normally have loads of new gear ready to go for NAMM, it felt like it was a bit lukewarm. Maybe that's just my perception. If I'm wrong, tell me. Let me know. But it just felt like there just wasn't a glut of new gear, which I felt was a bit surprising. I thought by now, 5 years on from COVID, next month, March, it's 5 years since we went into lockdown. It just felt like that sort of hangover. We should now be past that in terms of new gear and what's out there. But it felt like we aren't. It felt like the handbrake is still on a bit. But, mate, like I say, I wasn't there. Maybe just my perception of it. I've heard from a couple of colleagues in the business, if you like to call them that, who were there, and they said there was a definite atmosphere that certainly the show isn't what it once was. We're not in the heyday of the 80s and 90s anymore. But it just felt like, it felt like there's a conscious belief that maybe the NAMM show is on, not its last legs, but it's on a little bit of a sticky wicket in terms of where companies are putting their money and their advertising budgets and all that sort of thing. And it's understandable with the rise of the social media stuff and all the platforms. And hey, I'm a YouTuber as well, and lots of what gets done now isn't through magazines. There aren't that many magazines anymore. It's either websites from bass influencers, or it's their YouTube channels, and they're pumping that money into those people coming to film their content and then sticking it up. And I guess, you got the big platforms like Scott and there's just so many, Bass the World and all these big channels, and that young girl, Ellen, she's out there. They're kind of the focus now for all the gear and the advertising. So it's the way it is, it's the new online world, I guess. But there we are. Johnny C. Oh, yes, the new GKRB Legacy. I did see that. I actually posted on my Facebook page. It's a good start, Mike. Well done. Polished today. That GK, love GK amps, love GK gear. Got a lot of time for it. I think it's very good gear. But it astounds me. GK aren't just the only company in this, what I'm about to say. I keep seeing companies producing new amps, and it's the business they're in. They're in the amplification business, but they're producing these things and they're getting louder and louder and louder and louder. That's always been the case. It went from 10 watts to 20 watts to 50 watts to 100, 150, 200, 300, 350, 500. I get it. I understand all that. But you've got companies doing this. Wolfhands, good to see you. You've got companies producing all this new amplification equipment. Yet, in my experience, it's going the other way. And I can remember about 8 years ago having this chat with Joel, my editor at the mag. And he was saying, there's going to be this huge change. Kemper's changing everything. Some very high-profile names who have very big endorsement deals with big amplification companies. They're going to ditch their amplification. They're going just on ears. There's no backline. They're just going to use a Kemper or Fractal or Helix or whatever. And that's the route it's all going to go. I remember poo-pooing it, going, you're talking rubbish. I said, amplification is always going to be there. You're not going to have in-ear monitoring systems for little pubs and clubs and what have you. It's the way it's going. I hear from more and more people who are still doing the pub and club scene. I'm kind of a bit out of it now. I don't do a lot of that stuff because there isn't a lot of it around. And the bands I'm working in aren't general covers bands. Today's band's a disco show band, 10-piece, Queen tributes, ABBA tributes, a couple of wedding bands here and there. But I keep hearing that more and more of these smaller places are now saying we want no amplification. We don't want any backline. Drums have got to be electronic. Everything has got You got to feed all your instrumentation into a mixer and take a feed out of that to our mixer or our sound system, and we control the overall sound at our end, like behind the bar. And I'm hearing it more and more in these smaller places, and it's like, really? I can't believe it. But a lot of it is down to flats above the venue, flats and houses next door to the venue. The councils are it's certainly here in the UK, they're getting more and more heavy-handed on this. And it is going that way. I've been reporting here on the channel about how everything has changed for me in that regard. Because up until COVID, all the bands I was in, very few used ears. I didn't take IEMs on until spring of 2019. And I've still got tons of amplification. Anyone that watches the videos know I have the wall of amps here. And occasionally, still like on the Queen shows, I'll take amplification. ABBA tends to be dependent on the gig. The band leader in the ABBA band sometimes likes having bass amplification sort of directly behind him because I'm directly behind him. But on other gigs, and certainly if we're in London, I just won't take an amp. I just go directly into my pedal board, out from my Aguilar Tone Hammer preamp pedal, straight into the system. But since we came out of COVID, obviously with Uncle Funk, we're totally backlineless. There's no backline whatsoever. We're all on IEMs. It's the only sound, and I used to say this on the Bass String Experiment series. Reminder, Mike, put a link into the description box for the Bass String Experiment series so these fine people can check it out if they want to. Yeah, on those videos, people would message and go, why don't you do a bit so we can hear you doing sound check or we hear you doing the gig? Well, first of all, I don't because of copyright restrictions, copyright claims, copyright strikes. However, what I would have loved to have done was to given you some examples of sound check when the band are just cooking, when we're just playing. We're not properly sound checking. We're just playing for a bit of fun. Some of our jams are quite fab, but the problem was all you would hear is the out front sound, and normally I'm on the stage, so I'm on the other side of it, so you're not going to get a great sound. You're going to hear drums overpowering you, some sax and trumpet, and that would be it. You won't hear anything else. And I'm not privy to the mix that our drummer records on his hard drive recorder for every gig. He films every gig and records it, but he doesn't give me the mix. The amount of times I've asked for the mix, Ajit, you know, I keep asking, you don't give me any of the audio, so I can't add it onto my videos, or I couldn't at that time. So if you saw the gig vlog the other week from the gig we did about 3 weeks ago, the sound check, I didn't have a great positioning on the camera, but the sound on sound check was what you're hearing, and thankfully a couple of you said, "Oh, it actually sounds pretty good. The bass tone sounds really good." That was because I was stood right next to the sub and one of the satellite speakers, and you were getting that sound directly going into the camera because it was right next to it. But that was what you were going to hear. You weren't going to hear like a properly mixed, full band sort of playing. That's until the drummer gives me those audios, I can't use them. So, but that's the way it's gone. So, like today's gig vlog, I'll set my camera up somewhere and hopefully you're going to get some relatively decent sound, but I can't guarantee it. And again, because there's no amplification there, you're not going to, I could sit and noodle for an hour, but you're not really going to hear it. So that's the way it's going. So the whole IEM thing is kind of taking over. And I don't get, as I said on the Facebook post, I don't understand why these companies keep ratcheting up. Oh, we can do 1,000 watts. We can do 1,500 watts. We can do 2,000 watts. Everywhere, venue-wise, is saying less, not more, not more. And unless you're doing big stadiums, and a lot of those play, but you know, big stadiums, arenas, sizable gigs, you don't need your amplification getting louder and louder and louder because the PA is going to do the bulk of that work. The times where I needed a loud amp on stage, for me, now have gone. I don't, you know, when you used to do weddings in a marquee, which have a natural tendency to sap your bass tone, yeah, you need welly to get through and to sort of have some sort of strength in the mix within the marquee. Because at that time, I mean, certainly the bands I was in, our PA was good, but it wasn't magnificent. And very rarely was any of the bass going through the system. So it made things a little difficult. So that was when I needed power. Or I was on a very, very noisy club gig doing some of sort of the Australian, South African venues, places like the Walkabout in Shepherd's Bush, actually any of the walkabouts nationwide, Redback, Roadhouse, all those sort of places. You'd want some welly, you needed some punch to really sort of get through. And very often, as a bass player, I didn't have a monitor. So what was coming out of my amp and my speaker was what I was relying on. I don't have that situation anymore. And the way that IEMs have come down so much in price, there's no excuse really for most bass players not to invest in a relatively cheap system or a second-hand system, as I did. I bought a Sennheiser G3 second-hand. It's perfectly ample for what I need. Absolutely, I've got no reason to upgrade or do anything else at this point. So having these amps getting bigger and bigger and louder just doesn't make any sense to me anymore. I don't get it. So as much as I love GK and I've loved their gear over the years, I don't get this whole, they've gone from the Class D thing and now they're putting it into a bigger chassis and you can rack mount it. And does anyone use racks anymore? I mean, I've got an Aguilar DB751 and a tuner in a rack outside. I've got nothing else in it. I don't have anything else in that rack. I have a separate 2-unit rack when I'm going wirelessly on the bass, and that's also got a tuner. So if I've got an amp set up, I'll bring that 2-unit rack bag with a tuner, wireless, stick it on top of the amp. I so rarely use amps anymore. It doesn't make any sense, really, for me. But there we are. Just my take on it. So as I love GK, love all the amp companies. I'm not bemoaning the situation. I know they're all feeling it. I know a lot of amp companies have seen their sales really plummet. But I don't get the getting louder and getting bigger thing. Just concentrate on the quality of sound. I know they need to have new products. They've got to bring new products to market to remain relevant and visible in the marketplace. But I don't get the getting louder and bigger thing. You want to get smaller and more quality, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm hoping that whole side of the industry doesn't disappear. I don't want it to disappear. There's always room for amplification and performance in that sense. But I just think, again, maybe the geographic compass needs repositioning on this stuff. I think, what was I watching last night? I think I was watching a YouTube video about, I'm trying to think now, how the music business, it was Rick Beato talking to Lukather. And he was saying, you know, who would have thought, if you'd said 30 or 40 years ago that now in 2025 the music business would, it's not gone, but it's not what it used to be. And they both sort of looked at each other and went, you wouldn't have believed it. No one would have believed it. But it is. And I think the gear side of things is going that way as well, personally. Anyway, I see loads of messages popping in here. Wall fans, all true what you're saying, but nothing beats the look of an Ampeg 8x10 fridge behind you on stage, which is why there are all those pictures of bands with loads of walls of backline taken from behind, and it's just a wooden chassis with the material grill on the front, with no actual speakers in them, no drivers. Correct. Jamie Millard, Pink Bassman Music, good to see you, my friend. Backline only on bigger shows. Exactly, yeah. I mean, like when I do Queen tributes, it's kind of a given, but I've done some where I've just gone from the board, and I've got a Queen gig coming up at the end of the month. I'm just using a board. I'm playing in the centre of town. I'm not driving in. And cheers, everyone, by the way. Cheers, you up there. I'm not driving in, carrying backline for miles, trying to load in. Forget that. I'm all about the tube when it's London. As long as I can get home, okay. It's the tube. Joe Goose, good to see you. Hope you're well. There's everyone saying hello to everyone. Stacey, you joined us at 23 minutes past 7 in the morning in North Carolina. Hope everything is well there. Pink Baseman, time for tea. It's always time for tea in your house, but you need curry with your tea. That's the problem. It's too early for curry here, mate. It's, yeah, mid-afternoon would be my time for a curry. Won't be getting one today. We're getting crepes. Savoury and sweet crepes, apparently, is the band food tonight. So I'm going to have a little stock up on nourishment before I leave here at 2:30, put it that way. Joe Goose, you just bought a Bareface 12XN bass cab. Okay, we were talking about this 2 weeks ago. 1x12, 600 watt cab. You have an original 10CR bass since 2016. It's great for jazz, but I'm playing in a blues rock trio now and need some more power. Yes, that's what we were talking about, wasn't it? Is that the cab you've bought since we talked on here 2 weeks ago? And what are you using amp-wise with that? I don't know what amp you've got. Sorry, wrong one there. What's your opinion on Bareface, Mike? I have no playing experience of them whatsoever. We never had any, as far as I'm aware, for review at the mag. I never had any. I've passed and spoken to Alex numerous times at London Bass Guitar Show, but I've had none here for review. I haven't chased him for review. As I've said before, trying to do amplification reviews is really tricky because the problem you got is that I'm trying to give... Let me expand the screen there. Thank you. What I'm trying to do when I'm doing reviews is give you an honest take on how something sounds, how it plays, how it feels. Is it value for money? Does it do what the company say it should do? And with basses and pedals, it's fairly easy to do. Amplification is a different thing entirely because I can take a DI out of an amp and that's fine, but invariably I then get bombarded with questions about speakers. So how does the speaker, that doesn't, and you start getting the whole thing. So in order to review a speaker, I've got to mic it up. But the problem you've got is the sound is compressed twice before you get to hear it. So if I review a speaker and an amp in here and I record it and do it all as cleanly as possible through the audio interface, when I come to edit it, it gets compressed when the video gets rendered. So already you've got one level of compression. It's not how it sounded here in the room. When that video then gets uploaded onto YouTube, it's been compressed again in order to get the file size down. So what you're hearing is not a direct reflection of how that speaker and amp setup, or it might be a combo, how that sounded here. So already my comments about how it sounds and is the articulation good and did it have all the highs and the thunderous lows and a great voiced mid-range is irrelevant because it's not how, what you're hearing is not what I recorded. So that's the problem. So it might be that I start doing some amp and speaker and combo reviews more, but I'm going to have to preface it like at the start of the video. Be aware, this is not, what you're hearing is not what I am reviewing the sound on based by what I was presented when I was playing it. So that's the deal. So I don't really have an opinion, Joe. I'm sorry about that. Others on here, I know they're very popular. Lots of people using them. But like I say, I've got a wall of amplification here. And I'm certainly not going out to buy any more. So if the lovely people at Bareface want to send me some gear for review, I'll happily take a look at it, do some videos and put my findings up on the channel. But I'm sure they've got loads of other people doing that anyway. But I'm here. You know where I am. You can contact me if you wish. Joe Goose saying hello to Jamie. Very good. Your favourite JD bassist. I'm sure Mr. King would contest that, of course. Then Jamie saying the biggest Ampeg cab you have contains a 4x10 and a 2x15. Anyone wishing to help Jamie move that cabinet, I'll put you in touch. I won't be helping, I can assure you. Joe Goose, yes, you ordered it this week. As of now, I only have a GK 200 watt head. That's all right. You got the MB 200, I assume, same as I have. Very good. Jamie, curry is breakfast of champions. Well, I could tell you that. Just depends what time your breakfast is. That's it. I have a later breakfast. That's why it's middle of the afternoon, of course. Joe, you're considering buying an old Trace head, maybe an SMX head. Okay. By all means, go down that road. You know how good the tone's going to be. Just be aware you're going to need to put some money aside for potential repairs, because all of this gear, like old Arias, like older basses, older amps, need servicing and looking after. Components, so an SMX head is already 30 years old. So be prepared, don't buy it and then be surprised if something goes wrong. I'm not trying to put you off. I'm just giving you a warning. You go on Facebook, look at Trace pages. They are full of people servicing, renovating old amps. They're great, but the components are old. That's the issue. Now, if you can get an amp to stay healthy for many, many years and it plays ball, great. You're going to have a lovely time with an SMX Trace head. But I would say if you get one on a deal, put another £100 aside, put it in an envelope and put it safely away. You're going to need it for repairs further down the line. The other thing about buying Trace stuff, if you need spares, they are not easy to get. So as I found out a while back, I have inherited a Trace 4x10 combo. I think it's a Mark 5 on casters. And unfortunately, all of the EQ sliders had lost their white plastic rubber sort of protector. Trace heads always had 10, 11, 12 of those EQ sliders. I had to go through hell trying to find, it's too bright, Mike, they can't see it. I have here a bag of those EQ slider caps. Didn't cost very much, but trying to get it was an absolute rigmarole. It took me about a day to sort out. And then someone came to my my rescue and said, "Oh, you want these? They're on Amazon." It was like, great. But trying to buy spares, so the red and the green caps on the volume and the output volume, on the gain and the output volume, they're hard. There's a company in America. You got to buy this stuff from America. And they have all the, well, they have some of it, but they didn't have the EQ sliders. And you can buy it, but you got to pay tax, you got to pay import duty. It's a nightmare. The duty costs more than the products. Crazy. So if you want to go down that route, my friend, it'll sound fab as long as it's working. So sorry, I've got something, piece of fluff. Teeth back in, Mike. Thank you. Do your due diligence before you put your cash down, because it could end up costing you. I don't want it to, but just be careful. Yes, Jamie, old Trace is tops. It is. Also, Joe, make sure you got a nice strong back, because those old Trace amps are not light, okay? Andy Travis, I was bowled over by Barefaced. Here we go. I'm using a little orange OBC 112 cabs. Very cool. Okay. Well, there you go. Joe, have a chat with Andy. I know you're both on base chat, so maybe strike up a conversation there. But yeah, I mean, Andy's used loads of gear over the years. I know, because I've seen all your posts on base chat. So yeah, take that as read. Very good. You don't miss your EBS 410. No, I got two of those here that weighed more than the sun. Yeah, I used to carry those in. I used to carry them wedding venues, corporate functions, up and down stairs. How my back hasn't given out, and Lord knows I've had back issues over the years. Once I moved to Neo, that was it. I've kept the old 410s because nothing sounds like them. I've never found a cabinet as good as the EBS Proline 410. Back in 2007, it was my first experience of Aguilar gear, and I had a DB750 and a GS410, and I took that rig and my EBS rig, which was a Fafner and a 410, on a gig at an Air Force base, knowing that we were going to do 3 sets. So I did 1 set with my regular gear. I did 1 set with the Aguilar gear, which was the focus of the review. And then I did a mix and match set through both halves of the 3rd set. So I had my EBS did the 1st set, Aguilar did the 2nd, and then the 3rd set I used the Fafner, EBS Fafner head with the Aguilar cabinet, and then the Aguilar head with the EBS cabinet. The Aguilar head with the EBS cabinet was the overall winner by a long shot. The EBS 410 just beat the Aguilar for clarity, power, depth, grunt, punch. But the Aguilar DB750 was like a tank. It was just amazing, which focused my mind that over time I ended up going from EBS to Aguilar, now an Aguilar artist. But I've still got all my EBS gear. It's a different sound. If someone said I need this, I've got it. I can go to it. The Aguilar tone is a different thing. The EBS tone is a different thing. I do so much different work. Sometimes I got to mix and match. It's just the way it is. Bill Clements, good to see you. Hope you are well. Long time no see. Jamie, someone with a 3D printer might be able to make the caps with an example. To be honest, Jay, for people here in the UK, just go on Amazon and buy a packet of these. They're like £4. It was a joke. Once I realised where they were and how cheap they were, it was like, well, it's a no-brainer. But all I'm saying is for the other spares, like the various buttons and the fader controls and all sorts on the trace amps, spares ain't cheap. You might get someone here in the UK that might have a job lot, or someone who does a lot of servicing on trace stuff, and they might have bought like a lot of the stuff and they've got it. But reading those pages on Facebook, I'm not sure if there is one. I think a lot of people have just kind of washed their hands of that older stuff. Sometimes Ashdown will help. They will do repairs. It's a shame Ashdown don't do a standard ABM 600 but made in Britain. Have a word. Sometimes they'll make a custom amp. They've got spares for everything at Ashdown. If you speak to them nicely, they might do you a custom amp. Speak to them. Speak to Dan, speak to Mark, speak to Dave, and have a word. They might just do what you ask for. They'll price it up and tell you, there you go. Might be a one-off amp. The Joe Goose model. How about that? Wolf Hands, my old SVT3 Pro was the most reliable piece of gear I've ever owned. It was absolutely battered but worked 100% for years and years. Most reliable bass with a sturdy neck was the Aria Elite 1 SBR60. That doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. My SB1000 here is built like a tank. I might actually start bringing that out on a couple of gigs next couple of months, actually. I really enjoy playing it, but it doesn't always fit tonally with what I have to do. But you're planting seeds now. I'll start thinking about that today. Andy Travis, SWR Goliath 3 was fun when rehearsed on the 3rd floor, no lift. Good luck with that. And you live to tell the tale, of course. Yeah, I bet. This is the thing. This is the way it used to be. You wanted great bass tone, and your band kind of always demanded, you got to have good gear, and you got to sound like this, and da-da-da-da-da. And it cost, and it was heavy, and it wasn't easy to move about. Those times have changed, thank God. I wish I could have gone down the Neo route a lot quicker than I did. I finally took the plunge in 2009. It wasn't cheap. Wasn't cheap at all, which is why it took a while for a lot of people to sort of get on board with it. As the prices came down, it made sense. As I said before, the turning point for me was when my old covers band guaranteed literally a year's worth of work 2 nights a week at a London club. And after 3 gigs, my back was giving out, going from the car to the venue to the car with all the gear. And we had the PA and the monitors and the lights. I just thought, I can't do this. And I can guarantee that work is there. I had a contract that they said that we won't pull out of any of the gigs. You'll have this work for a year. It's like, great, okay. So I on a whim, knowing that that money was coming in, I just went and bought a 2x12 Neo EBS cab. Still got it here. Stand there. Outstanding cabinet. Two Bad Bassists. Good to see you. Welcome. I don't know if you've been here before, but if you haven't, good to see you. If you have, I apologise. Good morning from Detroit. Good to see you. Hope you've got your breakfast on the go there. I just bought a Sadowsky Metro Line Vintage JJ24. Lovely. Very nice. And it might be the nicest bass I've ever played. I hear you. Is that the vintage Metro Line? Have you got the one that's got, it's kind of grey with a quilted maple and the blue line around the outside? Is that one? Because I did a review of that bass very early on in this channel, in the life of this channel. So if it's the same one, they are nice basses. Definitely living up to the hype. Good for you, sir. Anyone else got any new purchases? Now we're past the self-assessment tax payment, which was yesterday. We're out of January. Thank God we're out of January. I tell you, January's been a real kick in the nuts all round. Just not great. I'd hoped when we got to New Year, I thought, thank God 2023 and 2024 out of the way. Now we can get on and crack on a bit. And since the turn of the year, I've lost a great friend, and I found out also that my mum's losing her sight. So, and she may well be blind by the end of the year. So it's not a great start to the year at the moment, and not particularly blessed with a huge amount of gigs. So, right, February, you got a lot to live up to. Right, Joe Goose, what's your opinion on Ashdown? We did this the other week. Yeah, I did all that two live chats ago. Have I played an RM 500 Evo 3 mic? No, I've had no Ashdown gear here. So, sorry, stand there. So that black thing there is a Superfly amp, Ashdown. So I do have Ashdown gear here. And this camera that's filming me, you there, is on top of an Ashdown Tone Pocket headphone preamp. So I do have Ashdown gear here. Got a couple of their pedals as well. But since I left the mag, I've not reviewed anything. I've contacted Dan and Mark multiple times and said to them, if you want to send me some gear, lads, I'll happily review it for you. Put it up on the channel. You can link through to the videos, blah, blah, blah. I have no problems with Ashdown gear, but they just don't send me anything. And I've mentioned it over and over again. I don't know. There's only so much I can do. I've emailed them, spoken to them on the phone. Actually, not them. I spoke to someone else on the phone when I ordered the Tone Pocket. I've had nothing through. They keep producing gear. I don't see any of it. Clearly, my channel doesn't have enough subscribers, enough viewers, so maybe it's not a big enough consideration for them. I don't know. I thought they would want to get the gear out there. I hope they like what I do when I do reviews, but maybe not. Joe Goose, because Mark King was playing them in the Retroglide era. Are we talking about the Superflies, or are we talking about the other amp that you mentioned? They did the red one, which was very much like an old Trace amp, but it didn't have the Trace sound. It had the Ashdown sound. Jamie, BA here, purchased all the leftover Trace stock of parts. There you go. If you need something, let me know, because we can surely work out something to get parts over there easier and cheaper for you. That's what I'm talking about, Jamie Millard. Nice, helpful people here on Brooks's Bass Corner. We try and help everyone out. Good for you. Thank you. Bear that in mind, Joe. Yes, BA British Audio. It's a company over in, I think, are they in Texas, or are they in Nashville? I remember I was looking them up, I thought, well, if I need extras for this, when I'm revamping this Trace combo, I'm going to need to get in touch with them and get parts. And then I looked at the prices and it was like, it's not going to happen. Wolfan, saw your SB1000 vid. Great tone. You definitely need to gig her. I will. I'm going to do that. I last gigged her. Oh, now we're talking. 2015, I think. And I had it all done up in 2018. I stopped the blinking LED and we gave it an overhaul, cleaned all the circuitry and the pots and and we're going to swap it over We were going to swap the circuit, which is original, for one of Carl Maltby's ones from Finland. And it blew. And bless his heart, sorry, Carl. He sent me 3 and they all blew. Something in that area doesn't like those new circuits. Don't know what it is. Tried to get Martin at the gallery to help me work out what it was. He just went, I haven't got the time or the inclination to do this. He said, you need to just get it to an area specialist, people who know what they're doing, which would be Carl and the guy that was doing the replacement pickups. I can't remember. Rotia, something. Anyway, there was a company doing replacement pickups in Finland. Really needs to go to them. Well, I haven't had any gigs in Finland. I've never been to Finland. But I've said if I go, I'll take that bass, find Carl, we'll meet up at some point, let him diagnose what's going on with that. I've still got his circuits here, but I plug them in, they don't work. So I don't know what was going on with that. There you go. Pink Bassman music for all your Trace Elliott requirements. Two Bear bassist, Ocean Blue, Ash with Maple Fingerboard. So I'm wondering if that Ocean Blue, if you, let me post up a link here. Bear with me a moment. I'll just go to my, you can tell me if it's this. I think this is Ocean Blue, but I could be wrong. Let's revert that to that. There we go. It always freaks me out when I put my content in my YouTube studio and I reverse it so it doesn't have the newest stuff first. It's got the earliest stuff first. And I look at some of those thumbnails and I've upgraded them and changed them over time. But I look at some of the stuff I did and it was just a case of during lockdown putting out as much content as I could, and some of those basses. Here we go. So this is a Sadowsky Metroline Vintage J421 Limited. So tell me if this is the same as your bass. It might be, or it might not. Have a look. See what you think. Andy Travis, another bloomin' Dan Electro. Pesky, sparkly bass. Yeah. I've reviewed a couple of Dan Electros in my time. They are what they are. They are what they are. You either like them or you don't. I think they're a bit of a novelty. I couldn't really use one on a gig. I'd be scared it might fall to bits, but for some people, they're exactly what they want. Andy talking to Joe, the RM gear is ace, had an early 800 and a couple of combos. Andy's had some of every gear going, to be fair. He's been through a lot of gear in your time. Don't give us the full list. How many basses, Andy? It's got to be, is it 100, about 150 maybe? In all your years of bass playing? Maybe more. I don't know. I mean, I've got 40 here. And I know over time I've let go of about 17. So not too bad. Not too bad. Not for a working bass player anyway. Joe, you're talking about the red face one with the princess on. Right. Have a chat with them. Have a chat with the guys. They've always got spares and stuff there. They could probably put an amp together for you to your requirements. So get in touch. They are in Nashville, British Audio. Thank you, Jay. Well, good. Stacey, Rautia in Finland. Thank you. Joe Goose, Martin from the gallery phoned you yesterday. He phoned you. Wowzers. He wanted to know what fingerboard I wanted on the new bass. Excellent. It's going to be a maple board with black dot markers. Right. Now, Joe, you've got to tell everyone what you're having made. So we want full spec. I want a complete detailed comments on exactly what you're having built. As you can hear, the dogs have kicked in. Probably the postman coming. Joe Goose, the say, oh, hold on, click on the right message, Mike. The say, it's going to be a one-off, has an oversized body, that's good. Martin agreed to make it larger for me as I prefer the status body size. Excellent. We now need all of that fleshing out, so we want to know timbers, we want to know finish, colour, anything particular you're having, circuitry, pickups, bridge, hardware. I want the full caboodle, Joe. Andy Travis, you've had 300-ish basses in and out of your grubby mitts. Wow. But you see, having all that, for all the heartache and money you may have lost, you have all that playing experience, you see. So this is all good stuff. Andy needs to play his JD. Yes. Joe Goose, the Say is going to be a 4-string. Good. You have no idea about Woods. I just told Martin to make his best bass. Okay, that could open up a veritable can of worms, really. You could, yeah, you know that Jamie's going to get in touch with Martin this afternoon and say, Joe says he wants it pink, bright pink, everything pink, hardware, pickups, the lot. That's what's going to happen. So you better get on the phone, Joe, and say to Martin, if Jamie calls him, it's like an early April Fool joke. The dog agrees, wants to know specs. Exactly. That's Ollie having a moan on the stairs. Andy, the Mark King 500 is an odd one. You've had two. They're not particularly loud. That's what I've always heard, which is odd considering it's meant to be rated at 500 watts. They've not got much going on sound-wise. Okay, very transparent and, dare I say it, a bit meh. Yeah, that kind of backs up what I've heard from people that have owned them and would also explain why I see them go for sale quite regularly. That's no indictment of Ashdown or anything, because that amp was basically based on and based around the old Trace amps that Mark loved. But for some reason, they just didn't nail it with that one. And he didn't use it for very long, let's be fair. We should probably not talk about sheer numbers of basses. No, I think we should. I think we should. The more the better. Absolutely. Joe, I think it's going to be great. I mentioned to Martin on the phone about pickups, and he just said it's not that time yet, Joe. Okay. But you see, pickups and electronics will be influenced by the timbers he's going to use. Because you've got to weigh up brightness, mid-range, punch, depth, bottom end, clarity, how it plays fingerstyle compared to being slapped, compared to being played with a pick. Let me throw this one into the mix, just so you're armed when it comes to it. So I can actually, let's do a little bit of screen sharing here. Let me dig out a review I did back in 2007, 2008. I've referred to this before, so it won't be new news, but let me just pull this up. So we want... it was the Roscoe, wasn't it? Dog's going nuts. Okay, Roscoe, I think it was a... I think it was a comparison review, so it was that, possibly up against a Zoot, maybe, or did I get it wrong? No, I got it wrong. Let me see. Let me just see the final card. Oh, this will certainly appeal to play. Okay, thank you, gents. Yeah. I've got the world watching this live chat and you're barking. Stop it. I think it's... Yeah, was it that? Or was it the Zoot? Oh, it's not in... Right. I know it's there if it is that one. Thank you, Ollie. Enough. Enough. Hey, enough. Put it this way. No one could get on our drive without us knowing about it. Yeah, I think it's that one. I think it's that. So let me open this up. It's the Roscoe SKB 3005 5-string. And then I want to go there. Right, let me share this with you, and we need to go bang like that. So, sharing my screen. Okay, and I want to share that. So hopefully you can see that. Can you see that? I hope you can. Yeah. So yeah, the Roscoe SKB 30055 string. It was an amazing bass. It wasn't cheap. It was £3,600. It was custom ordered by Bass Direct. I don't think it was ordered for someone. It was just they spec'd a bass to have in the shop to then sell. And in theory, you'd think it would be amazing. It had every custom option available. It was like top of the range, spec to the nines, great circuitry, pickups, build quality. I couldn't fault the build quality. It was fabulous. Really nice bass. You'd think like a bass of your dreams. Could I get a slap sound out of it? It was horrible. It was horrible. It didn't matter what you played or what you did with the EQ. You had this really dark, aggressive wooden bark that was really kind of harsh. And I tried my best to sort of temper it, bring the mids down, only add treble a little bit. Just wanted to, trying to do everything flat and cutting mid frequencies. I could not get rid of this mid-range bark. It was horrible. If you played with a pick, it was just like, if you wanted to be in a really hyper aggressive metal band with a bass tone that just sort of overrode everything else in the mix, that was the bass for you. And sometimes this is what happens. You can have a blank canvas and you put all these, in theory, should be great exotic timbers and electronics and circuitry and everything, and it just, all that happens is all those factors just fight against each other, and trying to get a bass that could cover a lot of ground. I'm sorry, I apologize. Turn it in. Thank you. Just trying to get a tone that would work, just to get a simple, almost like a soul tone for a Motown band or Motown tune. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. If I tried to dampen everything down, just play with my thumb, it was still there. I just could not wind that mid-range out of the deal. It was just like, this is crazy. I had a long chat with Mark about it at Bass Direct, and obviously he was going to back his own corner, quite right. But I could not change it. And I thought, no, I can't say this is something it isn't. I can't say it's absolutely amazing and that it just, no. So let me give you the second page. So, well, the third page was just a big picture of the bass, but I'll give you this. So there's the second page if you want to check that out. I realise you can't see it because I'm hogging the screen. So let's just take that off. I'll go back to the first page as well. By the way, if any of you want to join in live, you can. Email me, ticker running along the bottom, Mike. Email me at brooksysbasscorner@gmail.com. I'll respond as quickly as I can. Dan Electro. I've a message from Andy Travis. Andy, you can put this in the chat. Do you know? They're really bloody good. Yeah, the ones I had for review didn't set my world on fire. But like I say, they're kind of a niche kind of thing. And if it does what you want it to do, fabulous. But the ones that I had for review, which would have been like 15 years ago, I just felt it felt like they were about to fall to bits, kind of a bit like a Hofner kind of thing, just like there wasn't any solidity to it. But each to their own. I won't decry someone's choice of a certain instrument. That's up to them. Sorry, we're sharing the screen here. I'll go back to that. Sorry. So yeah, that was my review. So yeah, going into this, Joe, I would strongly suggest you think about, so what if he's doing the timbers, then you need to, well, Martin will be thinking about this anyway, of course, as will John and whoever's working on your bass. You've got to think about these things because it's very easy to, in your head, you think, oh, well, that'll work and that'll complement that and da-da-da-da-da. And then it's built and it don't sound how you want. And I've seen many a person, some who come here on the live chats, go down this route, spend a lot of money on custom instruments, and within a month, turn that bass around, sell it because it's not what they wanted. There's no easy way to do it unless you're going to sit in the workshop with Martin and start adding electronics and pickups, and it's going to take a lot of soldering, and I'm not sure if he'll go for that, but you can ask. But you need to have an idea of the fundamental tone that the bass is going to have. And then the pickups and circuitry are going to enhance that, bring out those resonances and the overtones that the wood, the strings, you know, the cheapest component in there, they're going to make a difference. So it's hard. You want to give yourself enough flexibility unless you're having a bass that you really only want one tone from. And Lord knows there's plenty here that really there's one setting I use on a particular bass and that's it. I don't fiddle around that much. But definitely start thinking what you want to do. Maybe get a John East Uni pre in there, which give you a lot of tonal flexibility. And then it's a case of finding what pickups you want. So, I mean, if you want something that's going to have a bunch of tones, then maybe look at some Sims Super Quads. Are you going down Bartolini route, EMG? I mean, there's just so much out there. Take your pick, but they will all sound different. And it can be a real minefield trying to find the electronics package that complements the basic wooden character of the instrument you're having made. It's hard. There's a lot of components you've got to think about. But until it's in your hands, you don't know. Like I say, I've known many bass playing friends who've gone down that custom route and come out with something at the end which was not their intention. And then you have to say, well, am I going to stick with it or am I going to sell it? Sometimes, like certainly with Martin, if it wasn't the bass you wanted, they'll probably buy it back and sell it through the store. But you've then got to wait for another one to be built. So there you go. Andy, we're talking about Ashdown here. The ABM and RM were much more positive experiences relating to the Mark King 500. Cool. Okay. Jamie, Clive Buttons designed both Trace and Ashdown. Yeah. Halcyon days. Nearly 30 years ago. Goodness me. Where's the time go? It's crazy. 5 years since COVID. That feels to me like about 3 months ago. It doesn't feel like 5 years. Andy, you haven't brushed your hair. Put a cap on. As I learned in the early days of this channel, in the middle of COVID, not being able to get your hair cut, I should have just put a cap on most of my videos. Instead, I look like the Play-Doh man in the barbershop chair with the handle. And it just went... Anyway. Andy, you've never gone down the custom route? I'm too fickle impatient. I did it once. Thankfully, the result was great. It's one of my most used basses, the GB Kingfisher Blue. It's over there. Might be coming out today. I haven't decided on my axis today. But I'm not sure I want to go down that road again. The experience was okay. But there were elements that I didn't enjoy where things were done that I hadn't agreed to. And the day I thought I was going down to pick it up, it had been sprayed in a colour I hadn't asked for. To which my reply was, no, the initial opening gambit as I walked through the door was, well, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I said, yeah, it is beautiful, but it's not the colour I want. So you get that off and spray it the colour that I asked for in first time around. The luthier wasn't happy. I said, well, I'm paying for it and I've got to play it. So it needs to be what I want it to be. And you've sprayed it the colour you want, not the colour I want. So there we go. Joe Goose, yeah, I love John East preamps. Okay, we'll have a look. The lovely thing with John is that you can specify pretty much what you want. So you can either have an off-the-shelf amongst the various range that he has there, or pick one that you want and you can add and remove features. Like I removed the passive option on one of my basses. But you can also have the shelving frequencies how you want it. You tell John and he'll make it. So you can either go to his place and tell him what you want and talk about it, or have a phone or email conversation. He'll build the circuit and then he'll ship it to you or to Martin and have it fitted. And that's it. And the lovely thing with John, although bear in mind he is 76, he isn't going to be here forever. If you have any issues with it, well, he's still with us, of course. You can get it back to him and he'll sort it. We just sorted out my my Stingray circuit, which needed a little bit of remedial work. So, yeah. And the thing with John's preamps is they're tuned very musically. So you can have extreme in terms of top end, mid range, bottom end. If you want loads of clank and everything else, you can have it, but you don't have to. And his circuits are just so flexible. I mean, I've got 1, 2, I think I've got 3. Yeah, I've got 3 of his here. So, all good. Joe, I like Meg and Bart's. Meg? What's that? I don't know what you mean there, mate. EMGs, thank you very much. Right, okay. Okay. Well, EMGs and Bartolinis are 2 very different ends of the spectrum. So EMGs, you're going to get a lot of top and bottom end, although it depends on the model. To be honest, EMG, there's not a stock EMG anymore. There's lots of options there. And Bartolinis, again, they've got multiple different models, but you're going to generally find they're quite mid-biased, or at least they used to be in my experience. But that's not a bad thing. Sometimes that's what a bass needs. So up to you, mate. Up to you. And are you going for humbuckers, soap bars, split, single coils? What are you doing? Are you going to be really eccentric and have 2 single coils and a split, or a humbucker that can be split and a split coil? Or what are you having? What are you having? There's always the option of having 3 humbuckers and having them all splittable. Really confuse the whole situation. So yeah. Jamie, you've had a number of custom, most often ended in shifting them quickly. You're basically reinforcing what I've said. So if you go into having a custom made and you don't know really what you want, there's going to come one point in that build process you've got to start getting things right, because once it's all in, it's in. Okay, yes, you can change the electronics, change the pickups as much as you like. But again, timber choice is going to, whether you like it or not, you can have a lovely looking piece of wood, but if it isn't tonally great, it can really make an instrument feel dead. Or the alternative might be super bright, and no amount of EQing can take away that brightness. So you've got to think about these things. It's a lot of money you'll be plonking down, so think about what you're picking. I mean, God, how many says have I seen at the gallery that people had made and then they've moved on? You know, you'd think buying a bass like that would be for life, but I've seen them come and go. It's not just says, I've seen it, all the custom builders. Jamie, you sent Martin an email to make it all pink. Excellent. That's what I like to see. Stealth pink, that'll be. So everything pink. And not like a subtle pink. We want pink. That's what we want. Sorry if I've just blown anyone's eardrums watching this on catch up. Just taken us several eardrums out around the globe. But there we go. Joe, yeah, I heard John used to work at SSL in Oxford. He did. And he lives not far from Oxford. Where do we come off? I think it's junction. Come off at junction 9, and it's about 2 miles from there on the M40. So he's quite easy to get to. And if you ring him up or email him, you can, like I say, you can have a conversation. Alternatively, if you really want to sort of get down into the nitty gritty and nuts and bolts of what your circuit's going to do, you can book to go and see him. And he's very accommodating, and he will talk bass as long as you want to talk bass. So, but he knows all this stuff, you know. Joe, I'll probably just go to Martin, do what you think best. But it's not Martin that's playing it. It's going to be you. So it has to work for you, really. It's a tricky process. I mean, I knew when I had my GB built exactly what I wanted, and thankfully it wasn't too far away, really, from what Bernie was making at that time. So that was 2003, 2004. So we didn't really deviate too far from the woods. He wanted me to have a dark fingerboard. I went, no, I want maple. Yeah, but darker would look. But I said, I don't care. I want a maple fingerboard. Just do it, please. It's my bass. It's not yours. You're building it. I'm playing it. So I want a maple fingerboard. I want a bird's eye maple neck. I want a swamp ash body, and I want a quilted maple top. Not that far different from what he makes generally. And we made the body slightly bigger, about an inch bigger the whole way around the circumference. Because at the time, I'd seen Stuart Clayton's bass, and I loved GBs, and I'd loved Stuart's red one, and I'd played it a little bit at a guitar show with him. But I didn't like, the horns were too thin, kind of almost like bordering on Padula thinness. And I didn't want that. I said, no. I want a bit more beef to the body. I said, it's not a big amount. I just want like about an inch. So he said, right, well, there's the template. There's a big piece of paper. Draw what you want. Now, whether what I drew he went with or he just screwed it up after I left and threw it in the bin, I don't know. But basically, we put the template on, and I said, right, well, literally like an inch extra around. And we just drew it. And I said, right, well, there you go. I'll let you crack on with that. I'll see you when it's ready. And then I would pop back. But it became harder because I spec'd that bass in June 2003. And the last time I saw it in Croydon would have been, he just finished carving out the body. September 2003. I took Steve Overland with me down there because we had a gig in Croydon down the road. And he wanted Bernie to do some scratch plates for him. And then after that, wasn't long after that, Bernie moved to Brighton. So after that, it always required a drive to Brighton to check up on things. And thankfully, I was doing gigs at the Walkabout in Brighton, sort of once every 6 weeks or so. So I'd check in. But yeah, so it's a funny old process. Because if you change your mind halfway through, sometimes things can be accommodated, but not always. Quite. When have you been subtle? It's not in your vocabulary. Joe Goose, I've let Martin loose on 3 of my bass and they come back the best bass I've ever played. Sounded great, so I'm afraid to throw a spanner in the works. No. Go for it. Go for it. These things you learn as you go through the process. And as you say, he's done 3 of your basses, so it'll be fine. It'll be lovely and it'll be gorgeous. It'll be the best bass you've ever played. So, yeah, I look forward to seeing it. Actually, I'll be popping in there. Maybe in the next fortnight, I might say to him, show me what he's having built. And then I'll get the bucket of pink paint out and we'll start sloshing it around. Jamie, that's how I did the last JD fretless. Mike Diggins made the fretless maple with no lines or dots. Okay. Are you talking about my bass, Andy? The GB? Yes. 2 seconds. Got to go over here, get it out of the rack. All right, Ollie. Thank you. Yeah. Here we go. So, let me just take your message off the screen. Okay, Ollie, enough. This dog. Pardon. Shut up. Thank you. Right. Go the full bells and whistles. So we've got LEDs. I've got to have the mic here, unfortunately. Let me move this up here so I can talk. Right. I always try and accommodate the bass around the mic and it doesn't work. So so here we are. So this is my GB Rumour. Signed on the back by his lordship. Oh, got to go there. It's all signed, numbered. Schaller machine heads. Sims LEDs, but it doesn't have a Sims plate or anything. So bird's eye maple fingerboard. Bird's eye maple neck. It's 20 years old, 21 years old this year. So it's kind of got a bit honeyed in the lacquer, but I'm cool with that. It adds to its charm. So I spaced the pickup slightly differently to how the GBs were at the time, but the body, as I say, is about an inch thicker. You'll look at that top horn and go, that's no different to Stu Clayton's. It is. If you put his bass and my bass together, you'll see that the body's slightly larger. Try not to bash the ceiling here. ABM bridge, it's got string spacing. As I said the other week, it was all the fad in the early 2000s. String spacing, string spacing, string spacing. I've never changed the string spacing on this bass. It's never... People make way too much of string spacing. Just play the bass. Play the bass. Don't worry about the string spacing. People use it as an excuse as to why they can't play great or don't play fun. Lads, turn it in. Someone's delivering something. It's not a game changer. Just play your instrument, okay? So, as I say, this has a string spacing facility. I've never used it. It always stays the same. And then on the other side, so it's Swamp Ash body, quilted maple top. It's got a gunshot wound. No, it hasn't. It's a knot in the wood, and I don't care. It makes it mine, so if it got stolen, I'd find it. So 2 batteries for the circuit, which is in there. You can see all the bits and pieces going on. Got to go that way. Nice picture of Freddie on the wall, of course. And 2 batteries for the LEDs, because we've got front facing, of course. We've got LEDs in the headstock. That's a battery on its own, because there's multiple LEDs in there. LEDs on the fingerboard, and then fibre optics on the side, of course. So when it goes dark, if I turn the light off, you'll see the point. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Ultra blues. And there we go. So on this bass, if I turn the light back on, you'll see there's a patch. If I turn those off, you'll see there's a patch just round about, where's your finger? Right there. And we go across here, like a rectangle. And actually it's darker. It's darker than the rest of the finish. It's where this was painted royal blue, like my Spectre. And I said to Bernie, that's not what I want. I want this. Not royal blue. I want like a turquoise teal. And it was blue. And when I first got this paint, it's still there. That bit is a little more blue than the rest of it. I don't care. I just play the bass. It's got dings and bangs. It's fine. Pickups should have just been standard GB humbuckers. I suspect, because at the time he was building a bass for Marcus Miller, I think he turbocharged these pickups some way, because this bass has output like nobody's business. And I know he did something special on the Marcus bass, and I would not be surprised if Bernie did something a little special on this. He may not have done. This was meant to have abalone block markers, and the LEDs were supposed to sit in it. And I remember him saying, and I'd spec'd it with the abalone block marker. I said, you sure you're all right doing that? Yeah. And when he was doing it, he kept saying, oh, the abalone keeps splitting. It keeps splitting. Oh, we're not going to do that. I think he just didn't want to do it. It's fine. As it is, 21 years old. It's fine. Not a problem. Circuit, volume with a clickable, like the status things where it goes click, 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 click. Volume, pickup pan, treble, mid, bass. They're all shelved. It doesn't have sweepable mids. And then we've got the parallel series button there. And that's it. I've got none of the extra bells and whistles like the G-spot or any of that on there. This was before those things came out. Locking Neutrik jack socket, 2 strap buttons. That's kind of it. Not a lot else to tell you. No hip shot or anything on here. Didn't want it. Didn't need it. So there we go. That's my GB. Might be coming out today. Might not. We'll see. When I finish this live chat and start bagging up the guitars. Yeah. That was my reaction too. And I used it. I collected it on the 4th, I think the 4th of July, 2004. I used it on a gig that night. I was happy as Larry. Was really pleased with it. And it's been all over the world. I've taken it everywhere. What are you going to do? They're going to sit here? No, I'm take them out on gigs. Been with me to Israel. Survived in 45-degree heat for a month. It was fine. Same as all my GBs. The neck moves, it's only ever a quarter turn left or right. It's never more. Never more than that. It's all good. Amoy Azim. Good to see you. Welcome. Welcome. You got any questions about basses, bass guitars, bass amps, effects, bass accessories, strings, great bass players? Let us know. Joe, that's a lovely colour. Yeah, the original was meant to be more blue than it is. But the bizarre thing is you get this out on a certain stage with either certain lighting or indirect sunlight. The green goes. It suddenly becomes really blue, like really blue. And then you bring it out of sunlight and it takes a while for the colour to change back to the more regular looking. It looks green, but it isn't. It's got lots of blue in it. It's a bizarre thing. Bernie calls it Kingfisher blue. I think that's just he's going colourblind. It's actually green. But like I say, you put this out in sunlight on a stand. I've seen it happen at gigs. I've stood there and watched my bass for like half an hour. Like coming backwards and forth, like gone, got a drink, come back, get a bit of food, come back. And I've seen it go blue. It's bizarre. It's the weirdest thing. But it looks lovely under certain light. So sometimes you may have seen pictures of me in a suit with this on a gig and it looks totally green. But it's just the way it photos in certain light. It's just how it comes out. Ollie wants screen time. Ollie isn't getting screen time. Amoy, can you play Small Violet? No, I can't. Andy, that's a very cool bass. Thanks, mate. It's all right. That's all right. I've got 4 GBs here. So I've got that. I've got the Cherry Sunburst Spitfire 4, which people have seen various graphics here on the channel. I've got a 5-string Rumour, which used to, in its former incarnation, was a demo bass for Lawrence Cottle. And I had it resprayed and redone. That's here. I can show you that if you want. You want to see the 5-string. 35-inch scale. Not too different from this Rumour. Let me get this back in the rack. Oh, yeah. I can feel our heating's on. Bear with me a moment. The joys of Hive. You see, you can do it on your phone. It's like raging. Yeah, I thought it was warm. Funny that. Cute. Right, Rumour 5 here. So this used to be a brown coloured instrument, chocolate brown. It was very nice, but not my thing. And at the time, I was going through a real sort of cherry sunburst thing. Still am. Never not liking a cherry sunburst. So I realised, Andy and I have probably known of each other for years. Until last week, we'd never had any conversation whatsoever. So you probably know nothing about any of my bass collection. But anyway, right. So here's a GB Rumour 5. So as you can see, microphone's here, Mike. The top horn is a lot thinner, skinnier than the one on the Kingfisher Blue. And this is 35-inch scale. Lovely looking thing. So like I say, it was chocolate brown. And I thought, what a waste. I can make that look a lot better. Again, ABM bridge seems to be a thing that Bernie was going through at the time. This was made, as I say, a demo model for Lawrence Cottle. I was actually at GB in Croydon the day Lawrence went down there to have a chat with Bernie about making him basses. He was actually there for EBS amplification, but also looking to get a bass. And Bernie made him like 4 or 5, I think. Spitfires, Rumours, just to see what he liked, what he didn't like, what sort of woods he wanted. And this was the one, he had it and just went, nah, that's not for me. And he ended up with his Daphne Blue Spitfire 5. But this ended up going to a trade show, and a guy called Gwilym on Bass Chat bought it. I think he might still be on there. And round about the time I was rehearsing for the Bonnie Tyler shows in 2006. Put this up for sale. I was thinking, I really want a Rumour 5. And this came up. So I went and checked it out. As I say, wasn't a fan of the colour, but I knew I could get it resprayed. So I did. Rosewood fingerboard. Nice chunky old headstock there. Lovely wooden tuners, which was the thing Bernie did at the time. Still does if you ask for it. Shallow housing. Nothing out of the ordinary, really. 2 batteries for the circuit. 18 dB of boost and cut, of course. Option of body through stringing if you want it. And 1 battery for the LEDs. It didn't have LEDs, but I chose to have LEDs put on the side. Just because I thought I was going to be using it for lots of gigs, which I haven't. But I didn't want the LEDs on the front. I just thought, well, I'll have them on the side. So, all well and good. But it's great bass. Sounds great. Monstrous, in fact. Thunderous is what it is. Many a player that's come here has played this and gone, I want to buy that. It's like, no, it's not for sale. No. So, yeah. And then the last GB is the white one, which is in the rack. Needs restringing. Lots of little jobs need doing on this. That's got the sound to light controller. Does all the bits and bobs. I bought it on my 50th birthday for myself. It was at Bernie's workshop. He had it listed on his website. I rang him up. You got that white bass with the blue LEDs? Yeah. So is it for sale? He went, well, no. I said, what do you mean no? It's either for sale or it's not. It says it is on the site. He said, well, Jim owns it. Jim being his business partner. I said, right, so is Jim selling it? Well, dunno. I said, well, is Jim there? Yeah. I said, right, ask him then. Is he selling it? And he said, yeah, all right. So we came to a deal, and that was that. But it's going to get restrung and reset up, needs a clean and a tidy up and things. It's going to get it next couple of days. I thought I was going to do it yesterday. I had too many jobs to do yesterday before this weekend's gig, so it didn't get done, but it will. It'll get done this week. New strings, set up, a few tweaks here and there. It'll be grand. Let's see. Give me Java. Good to see you. Welcome. We saw you a couple of weeks ago. I hope you're good. What are my preferred strings? Preferred brand are Rotor Sounds. Generally, I like using a 4000 gauge or 4505, depending on the bass. So things like my GBs, alembics, statuses, anything with a 2/2 arrangement on a headstock, for example, or 3/2, 2/3, whichever way you want to play it. I'll use 4000s on. Anything that's a standard traditional headstock setup, so 4 in a row, Fender sort of thing, I'll use 4505s. There is some sort of correlation, and I don't know what it is, that if I put a set of... actually, it's nothing to do with the gauge. It's to do with the bass and the anchoring points and bridge, tuner, nut positioning. If I put a brand new set of strings on my status, an alembic, GBs, I can get close to 30, 35 gigs out of a set of strings. If I put exactly the same brand, same gauge, same material on a Fender, Stingray, anything with a 4 in a row, 5 in a row, 3/1, those strings will die off within 7 to 10 gigs. Exactly the same. I don't get it. I don't know what the correlation is. But that's generally what I'll use. If you've watched any of the videos here on the channel, you'll see at the bottom of the demo and the review bit, I put what strings are on that bass. I don't just use one brand. I'm an endorsed artist with Rotor Sound, but thankfully I'm allowed to use different brands or different types of string, different gauge for different instruments. And for years, I just used one brand when I was an endorser of Picato strings. I stayed with them for 17 and a half years. When it came to moving, I spent a load of money, about 400 quid, on a load of different brands of strings, different gauges, different types, different windings, what have you, work out what was going to work for me. And what I realized in doing that, I pulled out maybe 6 of the basses at the time that I was using regularly. And that's what I tried all these strings on. And from that, I worked out that Rotor Sound was going to work best for me. But there were some basses that worked really well with a different brand. So, as I said, on some of the videos, if you watch at the bottom, I list what the strings are that I'm using. You'll see different names. You'll see some have got Piccatos, some have got D'Addario Pro Steels, although those are the only D'Addarios that I actually like. The other ones I'm not a fan of. Some of my basses are going to be getting some DRs on them very shortly. Some have got flats, some have got half wounds, some acoustic bass. I've got 3 acoustic basses. One's got flats, one's got halves, and one's got phosphor bronze on. Mix and match. The problem is what one person likes as a preferred type of string, someone else might hate. So my advice generally, I've done this on string on live chats before, and we've talked about strings. First of all, find out what material you like. So buy a set of steels, buy a set of nickels. That's your starting point. So if you don't like nickels, and I generally don't, then steels are going to be for you. You might prefer tape wounds. You might prefer coated strings. You have to work that bit out. Then it's a case of working out what gauge you like. So again, some basses don't work well with certain gauges. Some basses will not use 3090s, 3595s and sound great or play great. Then once you work out your gauge and you've got your material, then it's a case of your winding. So do you want round wounds? Do you want flat wounds? Do you want half wounds? Do you want rotor sound pressure wounds, which are different again? There's all these different characteristics, and you have to find. It's not so much trying to make a bass sound like what you want in your head. It's a case of finding out what the sounds are that bass can produce. So for me, whenever I buy a bass, it's just a different sound. I don't buy a bass because I want it to sound like 10 of my other basses. That doesn't exist. You can't replicate a lot of this stuff. So when I was looking at strings, it was a case, well, I want as much as possible to go with one manufacturer that has a good selection of strings that I can use across all my basses. But I was very aware, and it opened my eyes, just how a bass can change just by changing the gauge, the material, and the brand. It can suddenly become a whole different instrument. So don't get a fixation in your head that all your basses have to have the same gauge, same material, same brand. It's crap. It's there will be some strings will just work better on some basses. It's just the way it is. There's a lot of physics going on here. So some basses sound better with nickels, some sound better with steels, some sound better with flat wounds, some sound better with round wounds. It's just, and it's only experimentation. If you've only got one bass, that's great. You've only got that one instrument and the factors it presents to deal with. I've got 40 basses here. I've got a whole load of different things. So when I buy a new bass, I quickly work out, is it going to be 4000, 4505? Right, done that. It's probably not going to be nickels because I don't particularly like nickels. So is it going to be steel? Is it going to be something else? Is it going to be a coated string? What sort of winding do I want? So when I bought the Lakeland 5502, I went with pressure wounds because it was less aggressive and full on than round wounds were too aggressive, too full on. I went for the pressure wound, which is kind of like Rotor Sound's version of a half wound. So you've still got a good level of punchiness, a fairly consistent bottom end, but the aggressive top end bite is just slightly muted, but the mid range is really focused, and that works really good on that bass. There's a lot of EQ adjustment on there, and it's got the ability that you can change how the mid range works. And there's like I think there's 4 or 5 selector switches. You change them on the back and you get a different mid range profile. So that affected what strings I was going to use on that. So I hope that's useful. If you've got any more questions, fire away and I'll try and help you as much as I can. Handsome Bass 2, well said. Kalium strings for you. I had the guy from Kalium Strings in touch when I was doing the bass string experiment. He wanted to send me some strings, and I said, well, send me some and I'll do the videos when I'm next out on like a big run of gigs, but he hasn't sent me any. So I maybe need to chase that up. My fault. Jamie, you love the 3090 rotos, but they last 2 or 3 gigs. That's thinner gauges. That's what happens. That's why Mark King used to go through 3 sets of strings a gig in his heyday. So one bass would have a set on. He'd then swap to another bass while the original bass had its strings changed, and then he'd go back to the original bass or a different one for the third of a gig. Andy, I find the Dario most consistent. Everyone is different. Everyone is different. I know people that will not use rotor sound because they may have used them years ago and they didn't work for them. The thing with rotor sound is everything kind of changed about 11 years ago. So not only did they acquire a bunch of the machines that Picato had, Jason also re-engineered and recalibrated all of their machines. And also there was the big deal that over a certain period of time leading up to 2014, the company that supplied the paper for the string envelopes hadn't been putting wax in the paper, which meant the strings corroded. And it wasn't just rotor sound that were affected. All the major string manufacturers that had paper sleeves for their strings were not having wax, and all of the big manufacturers found there was a correlation with how their strings were deteriorating during shipping. And once rotor sound went to the sealed packets, everything changed. So I've been using them since 2015, March 2015. So 10 years. Wowzers. That's flown. And they've been great. I've not had one string snap. The Bass String Experiment series, check it out. I got 73 shows out of one set of strings. And even then, the strings didn't snap. I could have carried on using them, but I just was not willing to risk something going wrong on a gig. And the tone had kind of dropped off to a point I was just not happy. But 73 shows out of one set of rotor sound swing bass strings. I thought that was pretty good going. See-through head, good to see you. Rotor Sound 4505s on everything since 87, but I get your point. Thank you. It's very easy to get tied into this. I'm just using one brand, and that was fine when I only had like 2 or 3 basses. And as the collection has progressed, it's become very evident to me. We used to get strings through at the mag for testing, field testing. And I'd always say, just send them through. I'll do 10 gigs with them and then I'll report back. And you'd find some things work really well. Some things would be absolutely atrocious. Now, this might shock some of you, but we had Dunlops when they first came out in 2006. I've still got a packet in the garage because the first packet was so bad that I refused to use the second packet. The steels were completely dead. Brand new set of strings, all nicely wrapped, cellophane wrapped and all of that. Dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. I used them for 10 gigs and I reported back to my editor at the time. So that would have been Steve Harvey. I just said, I don't think you really want to print this. These are dreadful. They're absolutely dreadful. And when they relaunched their strings in 2013, 2014, I was at Bass Gear in Twyford and Barry Cree had one of the reps from West Side Distribution who were distributing Dunlop. I think they still do. And they were putting up tons of these strings on racks on the wall. And Barry introduced the guy to me and he looked at me like I was something on the underside of his shoe. And he clearly remembered my name. He said, "Oh, this is Mike, works for Bass Guitar Magazine." I went, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, hello." And I thought, I've never met you before, but if you're that way, you're that way. And afterwards, like next time I saw Barry, he said, "Oh, you remember that?" And I went, "Yeah." He said, he remembered you wrote a bad review of their strings in 2006. I said, "Well, that's the review they were due. They were dead out of the packet, brand new, dead." I said, "I only write as I find. I have no, I don't have an axe to grind. Certainly not with Dunlop. I love a lot of their stuff." Funnily enough, a couple of sets came through for review. That would have been tail end of 2014. Much better strings, but I just couldn't get on with them. I used them on my Empathy, on my Status Empathy, and every time I bent any of the strings for whatever string, note bending, of course, it felt like the string is rotating under your finger. So The point is anchored at the bridge and the nut. And it just feels physically like the string is turning under your finger as you bend the string. I couldn't get on with that whatsoever. So very fine. If you use Dunlops, excellent. I'm very pleased for you. Not for me. Not for me, I'm afraid. Neolam, Pete from Holland. Can you give an example of a bass which didn't play or sounded that great? Yeah, where do you want me to start? But when switching strings made it a lot better. Yes, my status empathy. And I'll come back to it. Let me go through these messages and I'll tell you. Give me Java, thanks. Absolutely helpful. Pleasure. The problem with strings is you've got to spend a bit of money to find what works for you. But if you put $100, if you're in the US, I think you are, put $100 aside. Go and buy, I'd say buy whatever your favourite string brand is. If you know that you like steel or nickel, then you don't need to worry about that bit. But if you don't, you need to buy a set of steels and a set of nickels in your regular gauge that you like. Buy those. Then you need to buy, if you know what your usual favourite gauge is, go one set either side. So if you like 4000s, try a set of 3595s, try a set of 4505s. That could make a change. You're going to need to do a little bit of setup tweaking in terms of string action, pickup height. You might need to adjust the truss rod a little bit. It won't be a major change, but you will need a little bit of adjustment. And then it's a case of what winding you want. So do you like rounds? Do you like halves? Do you like flats? And that's how you whittle it down. Then once you find what you like, then if you've got a number of basses, you buy 4 or 5 sets or however many you got, and you stick them on over time, and then you know whether that bass works with that or it doesn't. That's my way of doing it. It's a whittling down process, and it's not cheap doing it, but if you find the brand you like, if you can get an endorsement deal, fabulous. I have an endorsement deal. It's cheaper for me to buy the strings from Amazon, so read into that what you will. You know, when I had a Picato deal, my strings were £5 a set. It's not like that anymore, sadly, and I wish I'd taken advantage of that maybe a little more than I did. But I would have strings in the garage that might be 15, 20 years old, and they may have deteriorated, so it would have been a waste of money. I don't know. Andy Travis, got roots in my fretless jazz, shameless Jacko attempt. That's all right. Roto's bloody autocorrect. You and me both. I get that as well. Jamie, the Aurora company makes strings for various companies here. Yeah, I'm aware of them. High tension manufacture is terrible for bending. Yeah, the Dunlops, it's almost like they've got lower tension, but for some reason it feels like the core inside the string is turning and the winding isn't, or vice versa. So the winding is turning, but not the core. It's a weird thing. I had 2 sets and I tried them both on the Empathy. They lasted, I think, about 12, 13 gigs, and I did 2 batches, and it was the same thing on both. So I knew it wasn't just one set had the problem. Not my bag. Not my bag at all. Il Fantastico Banana Joe the Scientist. Goggles. I have no idea what you're talking about. Very good. Andy Travis, using half wounds on my Gibson, very good, but they don't work on my other basses. Exactly what I'm saying. Exactly what I'm saying. I first started using half wounds on one of my acoustic Washburn, the AB40, and I loved them. They were absolutely perfect. I tried a set on a Precision, hated it. Just they died off so quick, and they added nothing to the tone. And I was like, that's annoying. Put a set of flats on the same bass and it worked. Just does. So that Washburn at the moment has phosphor bronze on. Yeah. But it'll be going back to half wounds when those strings die off. So hex or round, you're talking about the Dunlops. I can't remember. I think they're round because they're cheap. Usually a hex core incurs cost. I think round cores are cheaper. But that, yes, if it has got a round core, that would be why it's turning. But I've played plenty of strings that have got round cores. They don't turn under your finger. Weird. Weird. It's the weirdest thing. Weirdest thing. I've never experienced it on any other strings. Just crazy. Didn't get it. Didn't get it. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm just checking everything's good. We've got another 15 minutes. And then I am quickly grabbing some lunch, throwing my gear in the car, and heading off down to the South Coast for a day of Uncle Funk shenanigans. Private party tonight. Changing strings on a guitar, what I was after. Okay, that's fine. What would you... On a guitar or a bass? We're talking bass here. I don't play guitar, but I'm sure one of the other fine chaps on this live chat will help you if it's just guitar. What do you want to know about changing strings? I can give you a quick 5-minute resume on what you need to do if you want that. Okay, Jamie. When strings feel like bridge cables, I pass. There are a few I've tried. This is what I'm saying. On basses, Fender, Stingrays, what have you, with the 4 in a line, 3/1, they die off so much quicker. Really quick. I mean, it's just eye-opening that I can use exactly the same strings, put them on a status, put them on a lembic, put them on a GB, and I don't get that level of die-off so quick. It's crazy. I don't get it. I don't get it. But I'm safe in the knowledge that, I can put a set on my GB, on my status, or on a lembic, and I'll get 30 to 35 gigs easy. And then they've got to go and fresh set on. Do it on a Fender, do it on a Stingray. Totally different. Joe Goose, I play 4000s for the JD and status, 4505 for Fenders. You, me, both. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'm guessing you are probably overseas. Or Google's that for? Okay. I'll try. If I can help you, sir, just let me know. Andy, will you be at Birmingham Guitar Show 1st and 2nd? I certainly won't be there on the 1st because I'm gigging. 2nd, well, I don't know. I don't know yet. I've got so much going on. Private life at the moment, dealing with my mum. I don't know. This sort of thing, shows, unless I'm working at a show, it's the sort of thing I won't decide until sort of a week before, because I just don't know what my calendar's going to do. So I haven't booked to go, haven't planned on going. You never know. I could be there. We'll see. We'll see. It's the level of noise that puts me off. When I used to work doing the London-based shows, it was earplugs all day. But I was not that I was being paid for it, but I was getting all my work for the following 12 months of reviews and interviews done. So it made sense to be there. And the hang, of course, we legendary hangs. I was there the night Billy Sheehan drank 9 pints of Trooper with Dave Swift and then spun down a spiral staircase. I've seen that happen. I wish I'd filmed it. And but yeah, the level of noise at a bass show just fills me with dread, and a guitar show as well. Yeah. But we'll see. You never know. I might find them free on the Sunday, and I might go. You never know. They have quiet times. Worked well last year. Yeah, we used to have quiet times at London, and everyone just bypassed it. It was a shame, really. But we'll see. We'll see. I've no doubt I'll be up your way anyway this year. I've got so many gigs sort of flying in that are travelling gigs. So we'll see. We will see. Jamie, would be bonkers if I showed up for the Brum show. Well, it wouldn't, would it? Because we might have someone's funeral. Well, we don't know yet. We might have someone's funeral near that time. We don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. I'm sure you'll tell me if you're heading this way. I'll get the curry restaurant booked. Keith Doherty, good to see you. Hi, folks. Didn't realise it was an earlier start. Yeah. It's unfortunately the Saturdays deviate between the 12 till 2 thing or a 2 till 5, 6, depending on if I've got gigs. I didn't have a gig last week. I've got one this week. Next week will be, well, actually, I'm going to have to advise time because I'm going to be away on a pair of ABBA gigs down the West Country. And at the moment, I think I've got it scheduled in for 2 o'clock, but I don't know if we're doing a sound check on the Saturday because obviously we're going to do one on the Friday. I guess we are because I found out yesterday we're going to have a changeover on one of the singers. So one singer is doing one gig and another singer is doing the other. So I would imagine we are doing a sound check. So it might be we have to go for the midday thing. Depends what time we've got to leave the hotel. So keep watching the channel and the community tab and the social media this week, and I will advise accordingly. We will see. Keith, if ever you miss a live chat, don't worry. You can always watch them on catch up. They're all there. Obviously, I prefer you to join in and get involved, of course. But they're all there, all 98 and all the impromptu ones. So in 2 weeks, it will be 100. Got to get the cake ordered, haven't I? But none of you will be able to have a bit. It'll all be for me. Bass lines are the fundamental, man. Almost all songs I still listen to were built on. Absolutely. Everyone here will agree with you on that, sir. Quite right. Yeah, so tonight, Uncle Funk, Private Party, and then next week, ABBA, and week after that, I've got a request show in central London on the Saturday. Everything's Saturdays at the moment. Very rarely got any Fridays. And then it kind of goes a little bit quiet for a few weeks. It's like one gig here and there, of which one is on the 1st of March, of course. Jamie, take it easy, my man. Be safe. If you're traveling to gigs, be very safe, obviously. And I'll chat to you in the coming days, no doubt. Take it easy. Enjoy your curry. Weekend curry, special curry, of course. Yeah, and then once we sort of get towards the end, well, middle to end of March, we start to get very busy. So all the weddings. Take care. Thank you for joining in. Come on another time, and if I can help in any way with your bass playing or string changing or whatever, you're more than welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, it starts to get very busy, so it's all good. I'm cooking for family. See you next week. Cheers, Andy. Thank you very much for joining in. Pleasure. Good to see you. So yeah, then it starts getting busy. We can start getting festivals once we get kind of into May and all the weddings and private bookings. But today's a private booking, so they happen all year round. And the Queen gigs, ABBA gigs, a few sort of covers function gigs, and yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Everything's sort of ticking along. I'm just glad we're out of January. I hate January. It's long, it's cold, it's dark, things happen. Accounts, tax, all of that. Hate it. Actually, what I should do is probably just sleep from New Year's Eve until the 1st of February and then hibernate. That's it. Squirrels have got it right, I tell you. So if you've got any questions, anything you want to ask about basses, bass guitars, effects, strings, accessories, all of that caper, you've got 6 minutes to do so. And then I have got to end stream. I've got to go work. And I'll be filming a gig vlog, of course, like we did the other week. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I did a video the other week. Let me get you the link if you want to check it out. You might do. Please give the video a thumbs up, please. I say it every week. I haven't done any of that sort of thing this week. Yeah, if you could please give the video a thumbs up. Comments and shares, very much appreciated. It helps to promote the video, promote the channel through the algorithm. Makes a big difference. So if you want to check out my last gig vlog, here you go. Here's the link. So this was about three weeks ago, middle of January. Pete, break a leg. Thank you. Yeah, so if you want to check that out, that is my gig vlog number 1. So it's going to be a regular thing as we go through the year. You can see what I do, see how I do it, see all the traveling. There's Scott. Good to see you. You've got to go out for breakfast with your friends, I bet. We're going to be winding down in about 5 minutes, so Sorry about that. But you can watch it all on catch up. It's here. It's here on the channel. Joe, I use nickel 140 for basses I play bebop on. Steel on Fenders, as you normally slap on the old jazz bass. Very good. Yeah, I've got a couple of basses that have got nickels on, usually because that's what someone else put on there, not me. I just don't like the feel. It's a softer metal, and the general brightness is gone too quick for me. But if I have a bass that's kind of hyper bright, naturally bright, not circuitry making it bright, if I've got one that's very lively, a bit raucous, then a set of nickels can help rein some of that in. But generally, I don't go for nickel. Generally, not for me. I will update the description. I'll have to do that tomorrow. And I realised today's video has got no title. So again, I will adjust that tomorrow when I'm back. I'll do all the housekeeping for all the stuff here on today's video. Sorry, that sounds a bit ambiguous. So basically, we've got a band meeting stayover thing in a hotel tonight down where our gig is. So we've got a bit of a band conference thing going on tomorrow. So, and then a big lunch and then come home. So all good. So I will be back in the hot seat doing all that, doing everything I need to do for the channel. Next video will be the gig vlog. I'll get that up for Monday. I'll edit that up tomorrow night and have that ready for Monday. So you'll be able to see gig vlog number 2. So everything I'm telling you about that we're doing today, you're going to see some of that later on. With our new finely tuned rack system, and PA and lights have been redone and DMX'd up, and they had a big technical weekend last weekend apparently up in Cambridge, where they had the whole new setup all ready to go, and they were doing it all. They did playback of a recording of a gig, so all the lights and stuff now are coordinated, which is great. It was kind of that way anyway, but it needed freshening up, and I think a lot of that stuff was done back in like 2001 when we came out of lockdown. So here we are in 2025. It was time for a little reboot on the technology front, but all good. So we'll see today. See how it all looks and sounds. Looking forward to it. We haven't done a gig for 3 weeks, so it'll be enjoyable. Oh, and a couple of the band are back from their pantomime jollies and holidays and stuff. So it's the A team, I think, tonight, which is a rarity. We don't get all of us all on one gig very often. And as I said, so gig vlog up on Monday. Anaconda reviews this week. In fact, if I work really hard this week, so I've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday out for Friday, I might be able to squeeze in, if I'm really go for it, 3 bass reviews this week. Wouldn't that be a novelty? We'll see. We'll see. If I can do it, I will. Like I say, the Anaconda ones, they're 3/4 done. It's just I've got to put the icing on the cake and do all the promotion for them. So we'll see. We'll see. But if you've watched the Constrictor Elite review that went up on Wednesday, if you've watched that, thanks very much. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks to all the new subscribers. We had a right old subscriber surge this week, so thank you. Makes a big difference. I don't do the whole please subscribe to my channel anymore because it's a vanity metric. You can have 1 million subscribers, doesn't mean you'll get 1 million views on your videos. So I don't, you can watch the videos without subscribing. It's not a big deal. And the fact that YouTube doesn't send out my content to my subscribers is another reason that I don't really push it. I'd much rather you'd like the videos, commented on the videos, and if you want to share the videos out to social media to a wider audience, then go for it. Please do. That is all very much appreciated. Right, on that note, it is 2 o'clock. I've got to get my backside out the door, go and do some work. So thank you very much, everyone, for getting involved. Been a great chat today. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I'll see you next Saturday. At the moment, it's planned for 2 o'clock. Could be earlier. It might be later. I don't know. I just have to wait and see what time our sound check's going to be next Saturday. So I will keep you posted. Enjoy the videos, enjoy the new content this week. If you've got any questions, contact me via the YouTube channel, or you can contact me via the social media. I'm very good at responding. Give me Java, thank you. Stacey Ann, thank you very much. Thanks to all new subscribers. Thank you for everyone getting involved. Yeah. We're in February. Happy days. On that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a great weekend. If you're out playing, be safe. Drive carefully. There are idiots out there. Enjoy your gigs. If you're playing at home, enjoy that too. If you've got some new purchases coming your way, let us know next week. On that note, I'll see you next Saturday. Take it easy. Have a great weekend. See you later.